Totally. I mean, they're not good to use. Basically, hydrogen peroxide particularly is very damaging to the tissues. Every time they put the foot down, they're putting tension on that area, and it doesn't allow it to heal as well as it would in other locations.
We have a very special guest today, Dr. Mike King. He is a board-certified veterinary surgeon at Canada West Veterinary Specialists.
Pleasure to be here.
So now questions from pet owners. I have gotten this one probably in 10 different variations. My dog cut its paw. What should I do?
Yeah. The tricky thing is that it depends. Right, so dogs are very prone to getting their feet cut. Obviously, they've got very durable pads on their feet, but they're running around sharp sticks and stones and on the beaten shells and things like that, and they can easily get a cut. A cut to the skin, just a small cut to the actual skin adjacent to the pad, probably not a huge deal in most cases. Obviously, if it's bleeding a lot, it'd need to be checked out, but they usually heal up pretty well, might require a bit of light bandaging. Cuts to the pad can be much more problematic, because you get a cut there and then there can be a lot of bleeding from it early on, but then the actual healing takes a long time, because every time they put the foot down, they're putting tension on that area, and it doesn't allow it to heal as well as it would in other locations. So sometimes in bad situations, they can require stitches and actually a bandage or even a splint to take the pressure off so that they can be allowed to heal in a reasonably timely manner of, 2 to 3 weeks kind of thing, because otherwise they can take many months to do it. So I think the key point is that if there's a really small nick in the skin, probably not a big deal. If it's much more than that, and particularly if it involves the pad, it's important to get it checked out by your veterinarian. They may not have to do much depending on where the location is. They may just manage it with some bandaging, but it can require much more than you might think, just because of its location and the tension that's on that spot.
The paw is so similar to the human hand or the human foot, where there are so many different important structures like nerves and tendons and joints. So anything really beyond very surface level skin probably should be looked at by a vet.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing, of course, is that dogs and cats, but dogs, they kind of walk on their tiptoes. They don't walk on the flat of their heel. And when they're walking on their front leg, it's not the base of their wrist. They're supported by ligaments. And so you're exactly right. Those supporting structures can easily get damaged from a decent cut underneath the skin and can result in much more than just a wound. They can result in instability of the actual joints. So yeah, if it's a pretty substantial wound, definitely needs to get checked out and dealt with pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think most pet owners are just really looking for DIY vet care.
Yeah.
But even then, sometimes what you can see with the naked eye at home, once you get the patient sedated and you're really doing a good job of flushing, you realize, wow, like the pockets of this wound are so much deeper than we could actually see. So obviously the best thing is always to get it looked at. But if they're sure it's just a really minor wound and they want to know the best way to clean it at home, do you have any tips on that? Like, people are always asking about hydrogen peroxide and alcohol and all of these things. So it might be nice to just set the record straight on.
Yeah.
Basic wound care at home.
Totally. I mean, they're not good to use. Basically, hydrogen peroxide particularly is very damaging to the tissues that are trying to heal and don't actually help make it cleaner than sort of water alone. Ideally, what we use for flushing wounds is what's known as saline solution. So slightly salty water, basically. The IV bags that you see hanging in the hospitals are all that. And because to do with the different electrolytes that have to be in there to make sure that they don't damage the cells. So that's the very best thing to do, of course, but not many people have that lying around. You can use just tap water. Honestly, is better than putting stuff in it. And the other thing is a lot of people do have betadine iodine solution at home, and that diluted out to sort of being a weak tea sort of color can be helpful without being too damaging in a wound. So again, if it's a pretty big wound, it's best to be checked out. But if it's something small and thinking about wanting to clean it a little bit around, clean some dirt off and things like that, honestly, tap water is probably the best thing that most people have around, and maybe some iodine.
Sounds great. That's awesome. Thank you so much.